she is also sharing about the platform sutra of the six-page trap via the internet with the class members from Nepal, right? So today we are honored to have lecturer Susannah with us to share, to talk about Tao Te Ching, going into chapter 2, right? So now let us, without further ado, let us pass the time to lecturer Susannah.
Okay, thank you, Lecturer Hong. Thanks to the grace of heaven, the virtues of our holy teachers, the mercy of our Lao Qianren and Qianren up in heaven, and thank you, Master, and thank you, all my dear brothers and sisters. I'm very honored to be invited once again to share Tao Te Ching with you. And tonight, I think we will share chapter 3 and 4. But before we start chapter 3, let's clarify the verse I wasn't so sure about in chapter 2 last time. In chapter 2, Lao Tzu talked about duality, and Lao Tzu gave us some instances like 有无相生, 难易相成, 长短相形. And last time I put 长短相较 here, and later I did some research and found that most people use 长短相形. However, some people use 长短相较. And then some scholars explain as this. They say, as the scripture passed down from generation to generation, somebody put 教 as the footnote of 行. Originally, it should be 行, and then someone put 教 as the footnote. And then later, in later generations, and 教 became part of the text by mistake. So no matter if we see it in terms of rhyme, 押韵, or meaning, 长短相形 is more logical. See, 押韵 see, 高下相倾, 长短相形, 难易相成, 有无相生. So let's just use the version 长短相形 for this verse. Okay, now let's go to chapter 3. Okay, today we are going to share chapter 3, and hopefully we will share chapter 4 too. And for chapter 3, you can see I use this picture as the background of the cover slide. It's because bamboos have been considered to symbolize the noble human characters in Chinese culture. Usually we would talk about bamboo's characteristic in sharing 大学, because in chapter 1 of 大学, there is a verse called 瞻彼其玉绿竹依依. But in Tao Te Ching, of course, no bamboo, but I think it's something that all of us should understand. So since I use this picture, allow me to share some characteristics of bamboo. There are 4 characteristics of bamboo symbolize the noble human characters. The first one is evergreen, beautiful posture, and a peaceful, harmonious atmosphere. Usually bamboo retain green leaves throughout the year. So evergreen implies the meaning of forever young, freshness, and which describes that our true self never gets old. Our physical body is getting older and older every minute of every hour of every day, but our true nature is forever young, no matter how old we are today. And our true nature is perfect, no matter how many lives we have been through since we left our heavenly home. We know we have been through 60,000 years of reincarnation, and during this long period of time, we may go through the 6 ways of reincarnation, but our true nature is still perfect inside, waiting for us to discover. No matter many people have been through any kind of being, but our true nature is never destroyed, never distorted, still perfect. It's just covered with some like some cloud, some bad habits, but essentially it is perfect inside. So that's why we can receive Tao. If our true nature has been distorted or destroyed, then there's no use to receive Tao because it's still perfect inside. That's why we can receive Tao and cultivate Tao and manifest our true nature to propagate Tao. So evergreen means forever young, forever perfect. And the atmosphere that the bamboos create is always peaceful and harmonious, just like a well-cultivated cultivator. And the second characteristic is modesty and integrity. Bamboo are hollow inside. It has empty space inside, very spacious. And that means it can accommodate other things. So modesty means spacious inside. So in terms of learning, a 君子, a 君子, he or she is humble. He or she, a cultivator, 君子, the cultivator, is modest, humble, and willing to learn more. He will never be too arrogant and filled with pride and won't listen to others. And always willing to learn more because he or she is spacious inside. And in terms of getting along with other people, a person who is spacious inside means he is broad-minded and forgiving. His modesty refers to very spacious inside and can get along with other people well. And integrity. See the picture, the bamboo has nose, 节. So within a stem of a bamboo, there are sequential nodes. And these nodes sustain the bamboo to grow upward, not easy to break. And the nodes of a bamboo imply that a noble person keeps to his moral principles. There's a Chinese saying, goes like this, 竹可焚，节不可毁. I always think this is very beautiful. Bamboos can be burned to ashes, but their nodes can never be destroyed. So the characteristic of bamboo's nose implies that a person who keeps to his moral principles, he will never give up maintaining his moral integrity, even at the cost of his life. Even when he is burned to ashes, he is still stick to his moral principles. And the third characteristic, fortitude. Fortitude means courage in adversity. Bamboos have strong adaptability. They can adapt to harsh environment and always remain green and lush. Bamboo's fortitude describes characters of a true cultivator, no matter the environment is favorable or difficult. The true cultivator never loses his courage to go on. And uprightness. Uprightness means bamboo always stand tall and straight. Bamboo's uprightness elaborates righteousness of a noble person who is always doing the right thing. And vitality, we know bamboos grow very fast. So their vitality refers to a true cultivator's diligence and efficiency in doing things. And a true cultivator never gets lazy. So that's why our 前人give us a have given us a very good role model, very good example of 不休息, a bodhisattva, never rest. And number 4, this characteristic is very unique. Bamboo is tough, unbending, and yet flexible. Being unbending means being strong. A true cultivator will guard his principles with his life, so he is strong because he has bamboos have nose, 节, and we can extend the character 节 into 节操. 节操 means the unchanging will, a person with very strong will, and this will can never be changed. The unchanging will to stick to one's noble principles. And it's very unique. It's tough, unbending, have very strong will, but bamboo is flexible. You see, when we see the wind blow over bamboos, we can see bamboo can blow in the wind. It's very flexible. And usually when we think someone is unbending, we will think someone is very rigid, very stubborn, and not easy to communicate, unbending. But a true cultivator, being unbending, being unbending, the characteristic is out of the true nature. Is different from ordinary person's stubborn or not easy to communicate. So this being unbending means the strong will to guard his moral principle, never give up, never compromise, but he is broad-minded and easy to communicate. He is not self-centered. He is not prejudiced. He is not stubborn. For example, like I think all of us most of us have taken the vow of a lifelong vegetarian. So we will be a vegetarian and we will stick to our vows until the last breath, until the end of our life. We'll never compromise. But even we are a vegetarian, but we would not refuse to make friends with meat eaters, even though we don't eat meat. But we wouldn't say, oh, we are vegetarian and I hate to smell the meat. We hate to be contaminated. We want to be far away from. We wouldn't do that because we know we need to get along with people well. We are not prejudiced. We're not stubborn. So we won't isolate ourselves from non-vegetarians. So this is an example of sticking to one's moral principle and yet flexible, not prejudiced, easy to communicate. Okay. So after introducing the characteristics of bamboo, let's go to chapter 3. The first verse, 不尚贤，使民不争. Do not glorify the achievers, so the people will not squabble. Glorify means to praise, to show your admiration to something or somebody, especially when he does not deserve it. That's glorify me. And 贤 can be used as an adjective. When it is used as an adjective, it means talented. And also it can be used as a noun. When 贤 be used as a noun, it means achiever. Achiever means someone who is very successful in doing something. So let's see the text. A leader, this verse is to tell what a leader should do in guiding, in teaching his people. A leader should not present himself as prestigious and superior to others. Prestigious means inspiring respect and admiration and having high status. Of course, as a leader, he has higher status than his subordinates, of course. And so therefore, he had better not to show off or emphasize his power or status. He simply shows his humility and takes care of others. It's enough. Like a father, like a teacher. And then people will be very happy to have him as their ruler. Recently, I've heard someone says in Chinese, you know, we know a leader should have 威信. 威 means prestigious, and 信 means trustworthy. And usually people will think if a person has a high position and then he can command the followers, the subordinates, say, you should listen to me because I'm in a higher position, and you should listen to me and do what I tell you to do. And this is using his way to convince people, to tell people to follow. But a virtuous leader will do it the opposite way. The same with 威信, but the 信 means trustworthy. He will earn his followers, his people's trustworthiness. People will think he is trustworthy, so they want to follow him. They want to listen to him. So he accumulates people's faith in him, and then people will follow, will listen to him. The same 微信, but do it differently. So a leader, he already in a very high position, so he doesn't need to emphasize that. All he has to do is humbly taking care of others will be enough, like a father, like a teacher. And because in this way, people won't feel being oppressed and they are willing to follow. So living a life of humility will discourage others to compete for fake reputation and social status in society. Because people can learn, can see the example of the good leader. They understand that if you want to be a leader, you need to be virtuous and you need to serve. So they won't compete for higher position or false reputation, and everyone can live in harmony. So it is very important to have a good leader in a community or organization, because his example can have a very positive influence over the people he governs, he guides and teaches. Okay, 不尚贤，使民不争啊。And on the contrary, when a leader glorifies achievers and he always praise somebody for their success and set them aside for special treatment, he treats those achievers differently as somebody very special and treat others as ordinary, then people might compete aggressively. And when they compete, when people start to compete with each other, they might step over one another to achieve that glory given by the leader. So a leader, he should not only avoid glorifying his own position, power, and superiority, but should also avoid glorifying achievers among his people. But we might think that there's nothing wrong to glorify achievers. We do our best to win a trophy. We do our best to win a prize, an award. There's nothing wrong. But we are studying Tao Te Ching. We are not studying any other chicken soup or whatever. we are studying Tao Te Ching, and Tao Te Ching are talking about very subtle, very delicate inner cultivation. If we are awarded for our good performance, if all kinds of good performances are awarded, even including doing good deeds, then eventually, let's take doing good deeds, for example, eventually people would do good deeds only to win the award in order to be better than, to be superior to other people, instead of doing good deeds out of their true nature, then it's not good. So that's the main point of this verse, 不尚贤，使民不争. And then 不贵难得之货，使民不为盗. Do not treasure goods that are hard to obtain, so the people will not become thieves. So similarly, in terms of material possessions, a leader should avoid emphasizing or storing precious and expensive materials as treasures. If he stores expensive materials as treasures, he will provoke people's desires to own those things. And if he can avoid this, see, by doing so, he will help people eliminate thoughts of being greedy and the intent of becoming a thief. And why? Because when something is considered expensive, precious, then evil people will want to have more of these things in order to make money, make profits. Let's take face masks, for example. Of course, now currently face masks not that expensive, but previously when face masks, medical face masks are approved to be effective in preventing the spread of coronavirus. Originally, as we all know, they are not expensive at all. But when COVID-19 became a pandemic early this year, the price of medical face masks have soared, become very expensive. And it's okay, of course, because the quantity of production cannot meet the needs. So of course, the price will go higher. But when a thing is rare, it becomes precious because we can understand. But when some people became thieves, we cannot endure that. You can see from the news report, London ambulance contractors stole face masks, and more news. It was very hard to imagine that in before the pandemic, in the past, bad people, a robber, would wear face mask to rob money, to rob the bank for money. In a bank robbery, robbers always wear face masks. But during the pandemic, even you have a lot of money, you cannot buy any face mask because it's out of stock. So face mask became so precious that money can't buy. And the price of face masks, or should I say the value of face masks, is something beyond, of course, something beyond our control. It's controlled by the pandemic and the manufacturers. But we can learn from this case that when something becomes valuable, then thieves appear. Now the prices have gone down much lower and the thieves disappear. And we were talking about face masks. Now we are going to talk about something else. There are something else. The values are defined by humans, like gold. It's humans who make these things so valuable. When we place a high value on certain goods, there will be those who plot to take them by force, to rob, or by trickery, to steal. The determination of value can be rather arbitrary. For example, what intrinsic goodness does gold have that makes it so much more valuable than other metals? Very interesting. What quality of gold makes it so much more valuable? So when it's we humans who make the gold so valuable, and when we point to anything as worthy to have, as desirable. Note here, note the picture here. There is the wave, the ripple. When we point to something as desirable, we are throwing a stone into a peaceful lake, into our heart. Originally, our heart is peaceful, just like a peaceful lake. But when we have desires, it's just like we throw a stone into it, and then a wave of ripples appears. And the desires in our hearts are just like ripple, which disturb our peaceful heart. And when we want the desirable thing, we will fight for it, even sacrifice other people's benefits. So a sagacious, a virtuous leader, he would not do anything would not point to anything as desirable or glorify someone with special treatment, because it will stimulate people's desire for fake reputation or and material possessions. Now look at the picture. Here is a pit, and this pit is a bottomless pit. People's desires are just like a bottomless pit. Just like we can't fill a bottomless pit, we are unable to satisfy our insatiable desires. So a wise leader will prevent his people from creating this bottomless pit. How? He won't show his people the desired things, so their hearts will not be confused. So up to now in chapter 3, we have learned 2 verses. 不尚贤，使民不争；不贵难得之货，使民不为道。不尚贤，使民不争 do not glorify the achievers, so the people will not squabble. 不贵难得之货，使民不为道 do not treasure goods that are hard to obtain, so the people will not become thieves. And inspired by the previous verses, we can understand that outside attractions such as social statuses and material possessions are disturbances to our peaceful lives. So we should 不见可欲，使心不乱. So as a leader should avoid his people to see the desired thing, so their hearts will not be confused. But it's impossible, because we are exposed to those disturbances, and if we are attracted, then we might fight for them. Our mind will lose its peace. So how can we stay away those desired things and stay away from being disturbed? So we should learn from a lotus. That's why I show a lotus here. We need to learn from lotuses which grow in the mud, yet retain their purity without any contamination. And that's why Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, when they have Guo Wei, they always sit on the lotus thrones. So it's easy to say, but how? So how can we become a lotus? How can we learn from a lotus? A good leader, a good teacher will teach us by using 2 methods. Thus, the governance of the sage empties their minds and fills their bodies. 虚其心，实其腹. Number 1, 虚其心, empty their minds to erase all negative thoughts in the mind, then Tao within will be revealed. And the second method is fills their bellies. Having blocked out all negative thoughts, our internal light will illuminate just like the moon. So Tao within us can fully function without clouded and negative thoughts, and our life will shine with brilliance, just like the full moon. When the covering clouds go away, our bad temper, our ill temper, our bad habits go away, our inherent true nature, like the full moon, will illuminate from inside of us, and our life will shine from within. So that's why Lao Tzu said, fills their bellies, which refers to from within, from inside. Since our bad habits, ill temper have been eradicated, our true nature can shine from within. So 虚其心 means to get rid of bad habits, ill temper, to show, and 实其父, then our true nature, the spiritual light, our true nature will illuminate, will shine from within. So fills their bellies. Fill there means peoples. A leader, a good leader, how to guide his people. He need to teach his people to fill their bellies with what? With spiritual light. And why bellies? Bellies means from inside, not from outside. So 众生之所以为众生, when a person cannot find his true nature, he is like inside a room full of darkness. He feels emptiness inside of him and great pressure outside. 众生的情况就这样. But his emptiness is from a bottomless pit, which can never be filled. But if he receives and cultivates Tao, when he is restoring, when he is starting to restore his true nature, then gradually he will be filled with spiritual light inside, and then gradually he will understand the true meaning of feeling contented. So being contented with our self nature, with our true nature, is the true meaning of fills the belly. Before we can fill our belly, we should get rid of our bad habits. That's why in our Tao community, our grand senior elder, senior elder, all the teachings tell us 改毛病去脾气. Then our true nature can shine from within. Okay, and another explanation of fill their bellies is very interesting, and because explanation of Tao Te Ching, there are many different versions, and I found this is interesting. Previously, I shared my concept, my insight about fills the belly. I talk about our true nature, but this explanation talking about, it says that although the sages empty people's mind of desires and reduce their ambitions for fame or material wealth, they also fill their belly. They also pay attention to their basic needs. So fill his people's bellies means as a leader, as a ruler, he will see to it if his people has enough food to eat. See, in our Tao society, we have 炊事组. And in 炊事组, we need to study, we need to investigate how to eat that we can have enough nutrition and to improve our health, not just delicious food. So food and health actually is very practical, very practical. Without health, how can we cultivate Tao? How can we propagate Tao? So a good leader will see to it if his people have enough food to eat. And also, he will pay attention to if his people have enough spiritual teachings to learn. He will provide spiritual teachings to his people to promote their spiritual health. So this explanation also very meaningful. It show how a good leader so merciful, 非常的慈悲啊。And 若其志 after 虚其心实其腹 then 若其志 weakens their ambitions. Sentence sages will teach people to eradicate the attitude of being arrogant, being overconfident, and having too much ego, and to refrain from competing against one another. And if people can achieve these expectations, conflicts can be resolved, and our minds and thoughts can remain calm. Pause. But a good leader wants his people to weaken their ambitions, and meanwhile he wants his people to strengthen their bones. To weaken their ambitions is to eradicate people's arrogant attitude and self-centeredness, but and to eradicate habits of competition. But it doesn't mean that we should lose the aspirations to grow stronger. Some people might think if we don't compete, if we are not ambitious, we are weak. But it's not true. It doesn't mean that we need to compete, we need to be ambitious in order to be strong. From the text, in addition to weaken sentient beings' enormous ego, sentient sages teach people to strive continuously to sustain a powerful health so they can support themselves on their own instead of relying on others. Here I present a picture of sunrise. If we want to strengthen our bones, we need to learn from the nature. Of course, we know the sun is stable, it's always there, but in ancient philosophy, sunrise in the east, we have sunrise every day, so we can learn from this phenomena. We learn from sunrise. The sun rises in the east every morning, never takes a leave. So it shows us perseverance. You see, if we want to stay healthy, we need perseverance. Number one, we need to do exercise as a routine to stay healthy. We need to keep a healthy diet, no junk food. We need to diligently cultivate and propagate Tao in order to stay healthy, not only physically, but mentally, and most important of all, to be healthy spiritually. And why? By cultivate Tao and propagate Tao, we can be healthy physically, mentally, and spiritually. Why? Because by accumulate our merits and virtues, we can neutralize our bad karma and restore our true nature. So no matter we want to exercise, no matter we want to keep a healthy diet, no matter we want to diligently cultivate and propagate Tao, we need perseverance. So we can learn from the sun. There's a saying goes like this: no matter how many times you go down, you just keep rising like the sun. You see, sun sets at dusk today, the sun will rise at dawn tomorrow. He just keep rising. So 强其骨, strengthen our bones. We learn from the sun to strengthen our bones to stay healthy. And then the sage. A good leader will help people restore their innocent and harmonious nature, that the people have no cunning and no greed. People's calculating and manipulative mindset will no longer exist, not to say the desire to compete and to win. So we read from the text, we find that a good leader teaches people not to compete, not to win. We might think that we might have a question: is this a mindset of a loser? If we don't want to compete, we don't want to win, are we a loser? A loser will neither compete nor win. Well, nobody wants to be a loser. So we need this chapter. This verse comes from chapter 33. Those who overcome others have strength. As long as you have strength, you can beat other people. This is not specific to running a marathon. It can be applied to many fields of your life. Like if you have a high IQ, you can beat people in taking exams because you have high grades. If you have good physical strength, you can beat others in sports with your excellent performances. If you are eloquent, you are good at speech, you can win a debate, etc. So if you define a winner as being able to beating others, then it is easy. In terms of beating others, it takes strength only. But the true meaning of a winner is something more. It's something more. The next verse in chapter 33 of Tao Te Ching. Those who overcome themselves are powerful. This picture shows us that how to overcome oneself. You see, there is a small, tiny seed thrown by people accidentally fall onto the rock. And the seed needs to overcome. If the seed has a feeling, he needs to overcome his fear, his hopelessness, his being easy to withdraw, his being fragile. Then he has the courage to sprout from the darkness, right from a narrow opening in between the rocks. So in terms of cultivating Tao and propagating Tao, only by overcoming ourselves, our ego, our fear, our arrogance, our hopelessness, all our bad habits, and by supporting others so we can succeed. So, definition of a winner: we overcome ourselves and support others, not beating others. Overcome ourselves and support others. So a good leader, see, 使夫智者不敢为也. A good leader lead people in this way, teach people, guide people in this way. So those who scheme will not dare to meddle. When most people follow the way of saints and sages, there are still few people who scheme. There might be few people who still want to scheme and make secret plans to do evil things. And these people will find themselves unable to utilize their tricky plans because the ruling of the good leader leaves no room for their tricky tactics. Okay, and then now we are on the last slide of chapter 3. And act without contrivance, and everything will fall into place peacefully and naturally. Contrivance means the action of contriving something. So Wu Wei we already discussed before. Wu Wei is the way saint and sage used to teach and guide his people. They saints and sages, they inspire people, they enlighten people, they help restore people's true nature, and eventually all people will do in accordance with their true nature, and naturally a peaceful and harmonious world appears. So heavenly paradise on earth is possible. 就是世界大同嘛。世界大同 is the vow of our 老祖师 and 师尊 and 师母。And because the universal propagation of Tao. So if most people, as many people as there can be, if they can restore their true nature, then world, a heavenly paradise, an ideal world is possible. And of course, it needs our collective effort. It needs all of us do our best to help 老祖师、师尊、师母、老前人、前人 and to fulfill this vow, to accomplish this goal. So this is the sharing of chapter 3. And I think we still have time to go to chapter 4. Right. This is chapter 4, but it's a mistake. This should be 4, not 3. Chapter 4. Okay. The first verse of chapter 4. The Tao is empty when utilized. It is not filled up. But before this, we should look at this first, this picture first. In this chapter, Lao Tzu talk about when a saint or sage who has attained the ultimate enlightenment, whose spiritual atmosphere is so peaceful and harmonious, whose atmosphere is so immense, so vast, so broad, that it fills the heaven and earth and nourishes everything in the world. Just like this picture is showing us, everything is flourishing. A great saint or sage, after he has attained ultimate enlightenment and he's doing his best to 内圣外王, then his influence is immense. Everything is flourishing. Everything is has a good influence from him, but people still don't know this great saint or sage, what the great saint or sage, what kind of influence is from this great saint or sage. They don't know, but actually he is doing everything. Very profound. 道充而用之或不盈耳. The Tao is empty when utilized. It is not filled up. The emptiness of Tao is not a vacuous state of nothingness. Rather, it is the stable origin before anything develops. 就是我们常说的真空妙有. So it is so deep. Its infinite depths holds the invisible seas of creation. It appears to have nothing, but yet it contains everything. Its profound void is a field of unlimited potentialities. It's very abstract, so we need to use an image to describe it. We can think it this way. Tao is empty. When utilized, it is not filled up or exhausted. On this slide, I add or the word or exhausted. And one way to describe Tao is to compare it to an empty container with infinite capacity. And this container cannot be filled up. And the water that flows out of it can never be used up, can never be exhausted. Therefore, it continues to function infinitely. Tao is like this. And 或不赢 we can elaborate it into two ways. From superficially 或不赢 not filled up, but more profoundly never exhausted. Now filled up means a person who manifests Tao will not be filled with ego, will not be filled with enormous ego, will not be overconfident, will not be over proud, will not boast of one's ability in doing something. I'm wondering if you are familiar with the Analects. In Analects, I remember Yan Yuan say, 愿无发善，无施劳. Oh, sorry, it just come up to my mind, but I haven't prepared it in English. Anyway, Yan Yuan will not boast his kindness, his success, his talent, his ability, and that's why he is a great saint, great sage. So a person who manifests Tao will never be complacent about his ego. So he is not filled up. And never exhausted means if you restore your true nature, you have found your fountain of wisdom. 已经找到一个智慧的源泉了. So which will never dry up, which will continuously flow out. You will never be exhausted. 道冲而用之或不盈. And then we need to see this word because we cannot find adequate English counterpart. So we need to learn the Chinese character. This word 冲, the right hand side 中, 中 means, of course we know 中 is center. But when we think of center, we may think that it is a dot, a point. But a dot or a point is not enough to describe 中. 中 actually is the profound, tranquil void. It's the state before emotions emerge. So in 中庸, we know 喜怒哀乐诸未发谓之中. Before any emotion emerge, it is the true void, and it is the true face of our true nature, and that is 中. And it is the essence of Tao. And on the left-hand side, there are 3 strokes. 3 strokes, of course, we know it's water. And one quality of water is to flow. This water is not ordinary water. This water is right flowing from the source, from 中. So what originates from the essence of Tao, from the source, is harmony. You see, in 中庸, we know 发而皆众结谓之和. So originate from the essence of Tao, from 中, from 本体 is 和. And that means all of our virtues originate from our true nature, are harmoniously benefiting the people around you. So when we see 中, when we see the character 冲, we will think about the pure essence, the profound source. And the source is not motionless. The source is functioning, and its function is harmony. We are not studying scriptures only. Why are we going to into such detail? Because we are not studying something outside, not the science, the literature. We are studying something inside. That is our true self. That's why we go to into such depth. So 道冲而用之或不盈 This chapter is describing how a great saint or sage who has attained ultimate enlightenment by emptying his mind, if we say Chinese, it would be easier. By 虚心实腹弱智强骨, we have learned in chapter 3 how a great sage, he already 虚心实腹弱智强骨, and how then he become a great sage, and how he manifests his influence, his atmosphere. This chapter is describing this. See, the text manifests his tranquil, void, true nature into harmonious virtues. His atmosphere is indescribable, just like Tao, cannot be explained. We know Tao cannot be explained, but we need to explain. The same, the great sage, his atmosphere is indescribable, but we need to describe. And we are not trying to describe a sage outside of us, a sage we should worship. We are actually describing our future version, the future version of ourselves. All of us, 七圣七贤, 不是吗? So we are actually describing our goal. So a great sage, his atmosphere is indescribable, but we can list some point. Number one, magnificent. 很庄严. He is magnificent. He is great and noble. And secondly, he is harmonious. He can get along with people well and fit in with the environment very well. And thirdly, he is broad-minded and he is profound. As contrasted to narrow-minded people or superficial, shallow people, a great sage is broad-minded and profound. And fourth, his atmosphere fills between the heaven and earth. We know in Chinese there's a term 浩然正气充塞天地. His dignified, his magnificent atmosphere fills between heaven and earth. And the last one, he helps stabilize the world. Because of him, 因为一个圣者注释的话, he still living in the world, and the world, without people's notice, his living in the world will help stabilize the world and nourish everything. But people don't know about that. But that's the fact, that's the truth. And then his atmosphere is so indescribable, but he does not consider himself as virtuous. He would think that he's just doing his duties, and he does not claim credit for himself. He does not take any credit for doing all the good deeds, and he is kind and tender, just like a grandfather, just like a grandmother. And yet, he is innocent like a baby. He's innocent, pure at heart. And because the source of his virtue is so deep, it seems to be the source of all things. Tao, here the text read like this: Tao is so deep and vast that it can provide various energy for all, just like the master, the creator of the universe. Here, the creator is not a deity. Creator means the profound source, Tao. As shown in the picture shows us that the source of a river hidden in a remote mountain, so quiet, so profound, and never exhausted because it has its source, never exhausted. While Tao is the master of the universe, a great saint or sage's true self, true nature is the master of his own universe. You know, the outer universe is the great universe, but our own physical body is the smaller universe. And as the greater universe has a creator, Lao Mu, and our smaller universe needs to have a master, and that is our true nature, our true self. If we can let our true nature be our master, then we can always do the right thing. We won't be influenced by the environment. That's why it says so deep. Deep as contrast to shallow. If we are shallow, our mind and thoughts are so shallow and always be influenced by the environment, then we are ordinary. But if we can go deep, go to search for our profound true nature and let it be our master, like so deep as the picture shows us, has a source, so quiet, serene, and profound, then we can be our master and always do the right thing, will not be distracted by the environment. And a sage can blunt the sharpness, unravels the knots. The nature of Tao is delicately empty. It never shows off and always remain humble and self-disciplined. And that is, there is no competitive attitude in Tao. This is so beautiful, 错其锐. So let's do some self-examination. Do we have competitive attitude? Do we compete and compare? Are we still tend to argue with other people when we have different opinions? If we do, we are sharp. And if we want to cultivate Tao, we should blunt our sharpness, 挫其锐. And 解其分, Tao is non-confrontational. Therefore, Tao can relieve all conflicts and disturbances in the world with broad-mindedness. Here, 解其分 seems to solve problems in the world, but actually we should solve the problem in our internal world. If we can cultivate a broad-mindedness, a broad mind, if we be broad-minded, then we wouldn't calculate. We wouldn't feel like something unfair. We wouldn't harbor hatred inside our hearts. Then we will not have knots inside. We will unravel our knots. Then we are comfortable inside of our heart. And then we can start to help the world to unravel the knots outside. And all of this are just manifestation of our true nature. Okay, 错其锐解其分. And then 和其光同其尘. I think after we share 和其光同其尘, and then we will just stop because time is already up. Let's see, 和其光. Oh, I forgot to share. I think we will talk more about 错其锐解其分 because something come up to my mind. Some people might have a question. We don't argue, we don't compete, we're just kind and gentle. But in the society, some people say, in the society, if the good people just keep quiet and do nothing, and for whatever reason may be, and then eventually you will be controlled by bad people. And this kind of concept, we cannot say it's wrong. Actually, yeah, it's happening, yeah. But in Tao Te Ching, we are talking about our day-to-day life. We are not talking about politics. Here in Tao society, we have no comments on current politics. So in our day-to-day life, there's no harm to show our humbleness, to show ourselves, to be self-disciplined, to not to compete, not to argue. When you are dealing with your loved ones, your family members, your co-workers, your friends, there's no need to compete, no need to argue, no need to have conflicts. See, so politics is the bigger frame, a big issue. Mostly politics is influenced by people's karma, especially its collective karma. It's a result of accumulation of people's collective karma. But we are talking about cultivation in our day-to-day life. Day-to-day life is different. Day-to-day life is our own karma, our personal karma, our fate. And our karma, our fate is the result of our own thoughts and actions, accumulated in this life and in previous lives as well. Because our thoughts will become our behaviors will become our habits will shape our personality eventually become our destiny. And then collective destiny may result in a greater frame in politics. So to practice these principles in our day-to-day life, apply them to the way we treat our family members, our friends, our co-workers, and shape our noble characters. And we will enjoy the beauty of Tao. We will become a person of virtues and blessings. And if more and more people become people of virtues and blessings, eventually the bigger environment will change because all people have blessings. So the world will become better. So I'm wondering if you have that question or not, but that just come up to my mind. Some people will say if we don't argue, then we will be controlled by someone not good. So good people should come out and say something. But in Tao Te Ching sharing, we are not talking about that direction. We are talking about something happening in our small environment, in our day-to-day life. So it's already 9:43, so I think I need to stop here. And if I have made any mistakes, I hope God and Buddha forgive me, and I hope my brothers and sisters can give me comments. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Great thanks to lecturer Susannah for a very nice